Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to show you how to crochet these cute little bears which I have named Bertie and Bronte Bear. So for my bears I used a 4mm crochet hook and DK weight yarn. So these bears are part of my Crochet Animals series, and in the description box below this video I will leave links to the rest of the tutorials and written patterns in this series, so the tutorials for all of the other animals and their little outfits. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. So in this tutorial we are going to be going over how to make the bear, and you want to start off by making the body, the arms and the legs. And the body, arms and legs of all of the different animals, so the bear, the dog, the sheep, the rabbit, are all exactly the same, so they all have the same tummy, arms and legs. And I have a tutorial on my channel showing you how to make those different parts, and I will leave a link to that tutorial in the description box below this video. And if you have the written pattern, then it is all included on there, and I will leave a link to where you can find the written pattern in the description box below this video as well. So you want to go ahead and make the body, arms and legs, and then we can move on to making the bear's head and ears. So the main part of all of the animals is exactly the same, they just have different faces. So now we're going to move on to making the bear's head. We're going to start off by making our bear's head, and to begin the head you want to make a magic circle. So to do a magic circle, take your yarn and take your finger and wrap the yarn around your finger once. And you then want to wrap the yarn back over your finger to create a cross, like that. You then want to take your crochet hook and go underneath the first loop of the cross, and then using your crochet hook, pick up the second loop of the cross and pull it through. And you can then take your finger out, and there we have a magic circle, and we are ready to begin round one. So to begin round one of our bear's head, you want to chain one, and this chain one does not count as a stitch, this just locks our magic circle into place. So now for round one, we're going to do 7 single crochets into the magic circle, so 7 single crochets. So go down into the magic circle, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So there we have 1 single crochet, and now go back down into the magic circle and do a second one in the exact same way, and then do a third single crochet, and just keep going until you have 7. So like that. So there I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single crochets. And now to finish off round one, we need to close up the magic circle. So you want to take this end or this tail here and simply pull it nice and tight. So pull it as tight as you can, and that will close up the magic circle. And there we have finished round one, and we are ready to move on to round 2. So for round 2, we are going to do 2 single crochets into every single stitch. So you want to start off by going down into this first stitch here and working a single crochet. And if you're not sure which stitch to go into, then you can count back 7 stitches. So count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and go down into this stitch and work the first single crochet. But before we move on and work a second single crochet into that same stitch, you want to take a stitch marker, and if you don't have one of these, you can just use another piece of yarn in a different colour, and you want to place it through that stitch that we just worked, so through the first single crochet of round 2. So as with the body, arms and legs, for the heads of our animals, we're not going to be using any slip stitches, so we need to use a stitch marker to mark the first stitch of each round. So we have done a single crochet and placed a stitch marker into that stitch, and now you want to go down into the same stitch again and do a second single crochet, and then do 2 into the next stitch, and then 2 both into the next one, 1 and 2, and just keep repeating that all the way around. So I have finished working that all the way around for round 2, and I have reached my stitch marker, so there I know that I have come to the end of the round, and now we're ready to move on to round 3. And at the end of round 2 you should have 14 single crochets around. So to begin round 3 you want to remove your stitch marker, so remove the stitch marker. And we're going to start off by doing 2 single crochets into the first stitch. So go ahead and work 1 single crochet, and then just like before, you want to take your stitch marker and place it into the first single crochet of the round. So place the stitch marker into that stitch that we just worked to mark the beginning of round 3. And now you want to go ahead and do a second single crochet down into that same stitch. So there we have 2 single crochets into the first stitch, placing a stitch marker into the first one. And now you want to do 1 single crochet into the next one, like that. So there we have 2 single crochets into one stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and we're just going to repeat this all the way around for round 3. So go down into the next stitch and do 2 single crochets both into this stitch, and then do 1 single crochet into the next one, and then do 2 single crochets both into the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next, and just keep repeating this all the way around. 2 1 2 1. So I have finished working that all the way around for round 3, and at the end of that round you should have 21 single crochets. And now we're ready to move on to round 4. So to begin this round, remove your stitch marker, and we're going to start off by doing 2 single crochets down into the first stitch. So do 1 single crochet and place a stitch marker into that stitch to mark the first single crochet of round 4. And now you want to do a second single crochet down into that stitch, and now you want to do 1 single crochet into the next one, and then 1 single crochet into the next stitch. So there we have 2 single crochets in one stitch, 1 into the next, and then just 1 into the next, and we're going to repeat this all the way around for round 4. So 2 1 1 2 1 1. So there I have finished working that for round 4, and at the end of this round you should have 28 single crochets. And now we're ready to move on to round 5. So remove your stitch marker, and just as we have done before, we're going to do 2 single crochets down into this first stitch. So go down into the first one, do 1 single crochet, place the stitch marker into the first stitch of round 5, and then do a second single crochet down into that stitch. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So do 1 into the next one, and 1 into the next, and then 1 into the third one along. So there we have 2 single crochets into one stitch, 1 single crochet into the next, 1 into the next, and 1 into the next. And we're going to keep repeating that for round 5. So do 2 single crochets into the next stitch, then 1 into each of the next 3 stitches, then 2 into the next, and 1 into each of the next 3 stitches, and keep repeating that for round 5. So there I have finished round 5, and at the end of this round you should have 35 single crochets. And now we're moving on to round 6, and round 6 is our last increase round. So remove your stitch marker, and we're going to start off by doing 2 single crochets down into this first stitch here. So go down into the first stitch and do 1, placing a stitch marker into that stitch. So there I have 1 single crochet, and now I'm going to do a second one down into that same stitch to begin round 6. And now you want to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So do 1 into the next stitch, and 1 into the next one, and the next, and the next. And just keep repeating that all the way around. Do 2 single crochets into one stitch, then 1 single crochet into 4 stitches, 2 into the next, 1 into each of the next 4 stitches, all the way around. So I have just finished working that all the way around for round 6, and at the end of this round you should have 42 single crochets, and it's really important that you do have 42 at this point. So I would recommend that you just quickly go back and double check that you do have that right number, and if you do, we're ready to move on to the next round. So we are now on to round 7, and for each of the next 5 rounds, so for rounds 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, we are just going to do 1 single crochet into every single stitch. So to begin round 7, remove the stitch marker, work a single crochet into that first stitch and place the stitch marker back down into that first single crochet of the round, and then do 1 single crochet into every single stitch until you reach the stitch marker. And then you want to do the same thing for round 8, 9, 10 and 11. So we're doing 5 rounds of just plain single crochet. So remove the stitch marker, work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, place the stitch marker back down into that first stitch of the round, do 1 single crochet down into this next stitch and 1 into the next, and keep doing that all the way around up until the end of round 11. So I have finished repeating those rounds, so I have come to the end of round 11, and at the end of each of those rounds you should still have 42 single crochets. And now we're ready to move on to round 12. So to begin this round, remove your stitch marker, and we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. So go down into the first stitch and do 1 single crochet and place a stitch marker into this stitch. Then do 1 into the next stitch, 1 into the third stitch along, and then the 4th, like that. And now we're going to use a stitch called 2 single crochets together, and we have used this stitch before in the body. And when you do 2 single crochets together, you do 2 single crochets, 1 into each stitch, but you do not complete either of them, and then you want to complete them both together at the same time. So we're effectively turning 2 stitches into 1. So go down into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, but do not complete this single crochet, and move on to the next one. Go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and do not complete this single crochet either. So there we have 2 incomplete single crochets, and you should have 3 loops on your hook, and you want to yarn over and pull through all 3, like that. So there we have done 2 single crochets together, so it's exactly the same as we did with the body. So there we have 4 single crochets and then 2 single crochets together, and we're just going to keep repeating this all the way around for round 12. So do 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, like that. And now do 2 single crochets together over the next 2 stitches, so like that. And now repeat that again. Do 4 more single crochets, 1 into each stitch, and then do 2 single crochets together. And just keep repeating this all the way around for round 12. So there I have finished round 12, and at the end of this round you should have 35 stitches. So we have started decreasing, and now we're ready to move on to round 13. So remove your stitch marker, and round 13 is just a simple round of single crochet. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet into every single stitch. So go down into the first stitch and do 1 single crochet, placing a stitch marker into that stitch, and then do 1 single crochet into the next stitch and 1 into the next, and just keep repeating that all the way around. So there I have finished working that all the way around for round 13, and at the end of this round you should still have 35 stitches, so 35 single crochets. And now to begin round 14, remove your stitch marker, and we're going to start off by working 33 single crochets. So do the first one into the first stitch here, and place a stitch marker into that stitch, and then do a second single crochet, and then a third, and just keep going until you have 33. So there I have those 33 single crochets, and you should find that you have 2 stitches left to work into, and we're going to finish off round 14 by doing a set of 2 single crochets together. So go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, and the next stitch, pull up a loop, and go through all 3 stitches. So there we have finished round 14, and at the end of this round you should have 34 stitches, and now we're ready to move on to round 15. So remove your stitch marker, and we're going to start off by doing 9 single crochets, or 1 single crochet into each of the first 9 stitches. So go down into this first stitch, do a single crochet, and place a stitch marker into that stitch, and then do 1 into the next stitch, and 1 into the 3rd stitch along, and the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8 and 9. So there we have 9 single crochets, and now we're going to do 4 sets of 1 single crochet into 1 stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets together. So we're going to do that 4 times. So do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then do 2 single crochets together, like that. So there we have our first set of 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets together. So we need to do 3 more. So do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 1 single crochet into the next one, and then 2 single crochets together, and then do that again, so there we have 3 sets, and now do your 4th and final set. Like that. And now to finish off round 15, you want to do 9 single crochets. So there I have finished doing those 9 single crochets, and I have come to the end of round 15, and at the end of this round you should have 30 stitches around. And now we're ready to move on to round 16. So remove your stitch marker, and we're going to start off by doing 7 single crochets. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the first 7 stitches, placing a stitch marker in the first stitch of the round. So there I have those 7 single crochets. And now, just like last round, in the middle of this round, we're going to do 4 sets of single crochet, 2 single crochets together. So we're doing 4 sets of those stitches, just like the previous round. So do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 1 single crochet into the next, and then do 2 single crochets together. And this is helping to shape the nose or the brow of our bear. So there we have 1 set, and do that 3 more times, or 4 times in total. So there I have those 4 sets, and then we're going to finish off round 16 by doing 7 single crochets. So like that. So there I have 7 single crochets, and at the end of this round you should have 26 stitches. So we have decreased again. And now to begin round 17, remove your stitch marker, and this round is very similar to the previous 2 rounds, but this round we're going to start off by doing 5 single crochets. So do 1 single crochet, place your stitch marker, do a second one, and keep going until you have 5. And then just like the previous rounds, in the middle of this round we're going to do 4 sets of single crochet, 2 single crochets together, so 4 sets. Okay, so like that. And now to finish off this round, do 5 single crochets. So we're finishing off with 1 single crochet into each of the last 5 stitches. So like that. And at the end of round 17, you should have 22 stitches around. And now to begin round 18, remove your stitch marker, and this round is very similar to the previous ones. We're going to do 3 single crochets, placing a stitch marker into the first stitch. So for round 18, you're starting off with 3 single crochets. And then we're going to do 4 sets of 2 single crochets and then 2 single crochets together. So do 1 into the first stitch, 1 into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets together. And repeat that until you have 4 sets. So I have finished doing those 4 sets, and now to complete round 18, you want to do 3 last single crochets. Like that. And at the end of this round, you should find that you have 18 stitches around. And now before we move on to round 19, we are going to add some stuffing to the head. So before you add some stuffing, make sure that this end from where you did your magic circle is pulled through to the outside. And I'm going to remove my stitch marker as the stuffing sometimes gets caught in it. And now I'm going to take some stuffing, and we're adding some stuffing in now as we're going to continue decreasing around the top, and the hole is going to get smaller and smaller, and it will be harder to get stuffing to the very back here. So here I just have some polyester stuffing, the same that I use for the body, and I'm going to add this to so there I have started filling the head, and we'll work some more rounds and then add some more stuffing towards the end. And now we're ready to move on to round 19. So to begin this round, you want to do 3 single crochets, and it can be quite hard to crochet when you've got the stuffing in. So I like to kind of push the stuffing down behind the stitch that I'm working in. So we're going to do 3 single crochets. And remember to place that stitch marker into the first stitch of the round. So there's 1, 2, and 3, like that. And now we're going to do 4 sets of 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets together. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, like that, and then do 2 single crochets together, And now we're going to do the second set. So do 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets together. And just keep repeating that until you have 4 sets. So we need to do it 2 more times. So like that, and then to finish off, you should find that you have 3 stitches left and you want to do a single crochet into each of those last 3 stitches. So there we have finished round 19, and you should find that you now have 14 stitches around, and we're ready to move on to round 20. So to begin round 20, remove the stitch marker, and we're going to do 5 single crochets, or 1 single crochet into each of the first 5 stitches. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like that. And now you want to do 2 sets of 2 single crochets together. So do your first set, and then a second. And now to finish off the round, do 5 more single crochets. So there I have finished round 20. So for that round we did 5 single crochets, then 2 sets of 2 single crochets together, and then 5 more single crochets. And at the end of this round you should have 12 stitches. And now we're moving on to round 21, which is the final round of our bear's head. But before we move on to that round, we're going to add some more stuffing. So round 21 decreases the hole quite a lot, so you want to add any last little bit of stuffing now. So I have added my last little bit of stuffing, and you don't want to stuff the head too much, as you need the body to be firmer so that it can support the head. So now for round 21, we're just going to do sets of 2 single crochets together all the way around, and you should find that that is 6 sets. So I'm not going to bother putting my stitch marker in, as I'm just going to count the 6 sets. So I'm going to do 1 set of 2 single crochets together, and then a second one, and try and make these nice and neat. And then a third, and keep going until you have 6. So I have finished working those sets, and then I added a little bit of final stuffing to the end of the nose, and you can kind of use the end of your hook to kind of shove it in there. And now we're going to fasten off. So pull your yarn out and your hook and cut your yarn. And when you cut your yarn, try to leave a nice long tail, as you can use this to attach the head to the body if you need to. So pull it through. And then we're just going to sew the end of this nose together, just like we did with the legs and the top of the body. So weave the end through a yarn needle, and then we're going to go in through the next stitch, pull it through, and then in through the next stitch, and come through, and then go in this way, and do this all the way around those 6 stitches. So like that. and then finish off by pulling it tight. And there we have finished our bear's head. So once you have made the head of your bear, we can now move on to making the ears. And we're going to do 2 ears in the exact same way. So I'll show you how to do one, and then you can go ahead and do the other one. So you want to start off by doing a magic circle, just like I have here. So just in the same way as we have done before, make a magic circle. And now we're ready to move on to round 1. So to begin this round, chain 1, and this does not count as a stitch. And now we're going to do 5 single crochets into the magic circle. So 5 single crochets. So there I have worked those stitches, and now to finish off this round, close up the magic circle by pulling this end tight. And now we're ready to move on to round 2. So for round 2, you want to do 2 single crochets into every single stitch. So I'm going to count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to the first single crochet of last round. Go into this stitch and do 2 single crochets, placing the stitch marker into the first stitch of the round. And now you just want to do 2 single crochets into the rest of the stitches. So there I have come to the end of round 2, and at the end of this round you should have 10 single crochets. And now we're ready to move on to round 3. So to begin this round, we're going to do 4 single crochets, or 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So do 1 into the first stitch, and keep going until you have 4. Like that. And now you want to do 2 single crochets into this next stitch. So there we have 4 single crochets and then 2 into the next, and we're going to repeat this one more time for round 3. So just repeat that again, 4 single crochets and then 2 both into the next. So like that, and at the end of this round you should have 12 single crochets. And now we're ready to move on to round 4. So we are now on to round 4, and for the next 3 rounds, so for rounds 4, 5 and 6, we are just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So we're doing 3 rounds of plain single crochet. So go into the first stitch, place a stitch marker into that stitch and do 1 single crochet into each stitch around for round 4, then 5 and then round 6. So there I have finished working those 3 rounds, and in each of those rounds you should have done 12 single crochets. And now we're ready to move on to the final round of our ears. And in this round we're just going to do sets of 2 single crochets together all the way around, so that should be 6 sets in total. So I'm going to do my first set of 2 single crochets together, and you could put a stitch marker into that stitch, but I'm not going to bother as I'm just going to count them. So there I have 1, and then a second set, a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So there I have done 2 single crochets together all the way around, and now you want to fasten off, leaving a nice long tail, as you can use this tail end to sew the ear to the head. So cut your yarn and pull it through. So there I have fastened off, and we have finished crocheting our little ear. So they're really quick and easy. And now you want to take your yarn needle, and we are just going to sew up the bottom here using the whip stitch. So go in through the next 2 stitches and pull the yarn through, and then go in through the next 2 stitches and pull the yarn through. We only have 6 stitches around the bottom here, so it's really quick and easy to do. And now to finish off the ear, you want to pinch it together at the bottom, so where we just sewed up. So pinch it like that, and that will give us the right shape. So we're going to pinch it, and then with our needle, go through to the opposite side and pull the yarn through. And do that a couple of times to secure it. So there I have just sewn up the bottom there with a couple of stitches, and that gives us our cute little folded ear. And now you want to go ahead and make a second one in the same way. So then once you have finished your ears, you now want to sew them to your head. So as I have explained in previous tutorials, you want to add the arms to the body first, and then the legs, then sew the head on, and then the ears. And when you sew the head on, you need to make sure you have it the right way around. So if you have a look at our bear's head here, the part that kind of comes down and dips and points upwards is the top of the head, and then this fuller, straighter part here is the bottom. So this is the bottom, and then the nose kind of points up, and this is the top of the head. So make sure that you sew it on the right way around. And then when you're adding the ears, you want to add them on around about here. So don't put them too close to the centre, otherwise they will stand up straight and they might look like a little mouse. So kind of go more towards the side and go around about here, and sew them on using your yarn needle, and make sure that they are sewn along the same line. So I like to have a look at the lines here and make sure that I'm sewing both the ears on along the same line. So to sew this ear on, I'm going to go to the centre and just off the side a little bit, and I have threaded the end, so the very bottom end, in through my yarn needle, and I'm going to go into this stitch and up and out and pull the ear up, and then I'm going to go through the ear and then back down into the head, through the ear and back down into the head until it is nice and secure. So then once you have your bear all sewn together, the last thing that you want to do is add on the face, and I'm going to show you how to do that just on this little head here. I won't show you on the full bear as that might be quite difficult to show, but I'll just show you on this little head. So to do that, you want to take your yarn needle, so preferably a smaller needle, and then some black or dark brown yarn, and I just have some random scraps of black yarn here. And we're going to start off by doing the eyes. So you want to go to the centre of the head, so at the nose here, and go up and kind of off to the side a little bit, and choose where you want your first eye to go, and you can kind of work out where both of them are going to go. So I'm going to have one here and then one here. So I put the eyes just off the centre, about a third way up from the nose, and I'm going to go in through the stitch and come out and pull my yarn through. And for the eyes, I like to go around this one stitch 3 times. So I'm going to come back around and go in through that stitch again, and then I like to come back and go in through the stitch and up. And try to make sure that you're not picking any stuffing up. So there I have gone around that stitch twice, and if you wanted you could do it a third time. So you could come back under and come out again if you wanted the eye to be a little bit bigger, but for me that is fine. So there I have finished the first eye. So now you want to go in, down through where you came out, and then go underneath the head and come out anywhere in the head that's quite far away and pull this yarn through. So like that. So there we have weaved that end in. So now you can just pull it tight and then cut it off. And now you want to do the same thing with this one. Put your needle back in through where this end comes out and go in through anywhere in the head, and then thread this end through your needle and pull it through. And then you could just pull that tight and cut it off. So there we have created the first eye, and it looks really cute, and you want to go ahead and do a second one that lines up with this. So go along the same line, kind of just over from the center. So I would put my second one around about here. So there I have created the second eye in the same way. So that is the way that I create all of the eyes of all of my different animals. And if they are a little bit wonky, so if they don't look quite the same, that's completely fine. That's what they're meant to look like. They're homemade. And now to add the last little part to our bear, we're just going to add his little nose. So you want to go back with the black yarn. So cut a scrap of black yarn. So you just want to go to the nose here and go in and go across 2 stitches or so and pull your yarn through, and now come back around to the side you went through and then back out through the same space, pull the yarn through, and then come back around again through the same space and pull the yarn through. And you want to keep doing that until you have the size nose that you want. So I would probably do that 3 or 4 more times. And if you can, try to decrease the length of these loops, so the width of them, to give you the nice triangle effect. And there we have added the face to our bear. So it's nice and easy, but of course you can add whatever face you want. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it easy to follow. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos, and in the description box below this video I will leave links to my Twitter and Instagram accounts. So I always like to post regular updates and pictures on there, especially Instagram. So if you want regular updates, please make sure to follow me, and I would love to see pictures of your crochet work and your little animals on there as well. And in the description box I will also leave links to where you can find the written patterns for all of the animals and outfits in this series, and also a lot of my other patterns as well. And thank you again for watching. Bye! Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to show you how to crochet these cute bears, which I have named Bertie and Bronte Bear. So these bears are part of my animal series, and in the description box below this video I will leave a link to the rest of the tutorials in this series. So that includes all of the other animals and their outfits. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos.